basically, we want to explore in this work the use of particle simulation to create blue noise, red noise, and pink noise. So let's start first with the question of why sampling matters. And here we have an example of white noise that isn't correlated with blue noise that we will see later, the power spectrum characteristics. And I think we all can agree that the blue noise version is perceptually more pleasant to see. But the interesting fact is that both of these images, they have corrupted with the same amount of noise. The difference is that the blue noise suppress the low, move the content to the high frequencies, and our eyes are less sensitive to this. So, okay, now we know that the sampling matters. Let's see a bit more in detail how this color noise works. And to analyze them, we can analyze the Fourier spectrum, the power spectrum, and we can see in the case of the white noise, there are no special structure, and you have a flat real means. That means that there is no correlation between the points. But blue noise, on the other hand, as I mentioned before, suppress the low frequency. That means that we have a hole in the power spectrum center, and the energy is concentrated in the high frequency. And actually, that's the reason that the name is blue noise, if we do the analogy with the visible spectrum. Okay, so why blue noise is important in graphics is used, as mentioned before, for example, for Monte Carlo rendering. It's also used in stippling. That means when you want to have a continuous tone and you replace it with discrete dots, and this look make an artistic look that is more accurate with the blue noise. And actually, even in this new generative model, the blue sampling has been used to have better results. Yep. Less well known in graphics is the red noise, but in this case, it's the opposite of the blue noise. So you have the energy concentrated in the low frequency, and that means that we have a positive correlation. So nearby points attract each other. Red noise is very interesting. It's not only a mathematical curiosity, but it's a distribution that has been found to describe the distribution of planets or even galaxies. So it's well known. It's very practical when you want to do procedural generation for natural phenomena. Okay, so now let's have a recap of these three types of noise. So white noise is uncorrelated and is what is used because it's easy to compute. Then we have blue noise that is perceptually uniform and is used in rendering and sampling. And then we have pink and red noise, where pink is basically mild clustering and red noise is strong clustering. And it's usually used for procedural textures and natural scenes. So the question that we raise with this work is if there is a way to use a physically based system to generate the full spectrum, this full color noise, and the idea is to do it with a single pilot, with a single algorithm. And then for that we propose three contributions. So first of all, a unified dynamical system. So basically the particle move. Based on three forces: advection, repulsion, attraction. And then we managed to cover the white, blue, pink, and red noise. And we also managed to get superior blue noise quality with respect to previous work that I'm going to analyze next. So maybe you are now wondering why particle dynamics? No? Does it make sense to do a particle dynamics for some static content? And the idea is that we can represent any spectral noise type doing particle dynamics. So the particle moves, and in the equilibrium, you will get the specific characteristics of the spectrum depending on the different forces. And so then the task is basically design these forces to force the specific correlation. For example, in the case of the blue noise, it's negative correlation. In the case of the red noise and pink noise, will be positive correlation, clustering. And in terms of mathematical terms, the good part is like we can rely on theory. There are stochastic differential equations where they describe the distribution of particles. And here I would like to show an example. So then we have the white noise. Then the particles are uncorrelated. Then if we use blue noise, they start to repulse each other. And then they try to make like a grid. And finally, the pink and red noise, they try to do clusters, depending on the force. Now, let's analyze the related work. And we are going to analyze mostly blue noise, because most of the works are focusing blue noise. And here, I think it's interesting to see that there exist many approaches, but you can think about it as different ways to encode repulsion. For example, if you have Poisson desampling, you have a radius, and then what you do is that you reject any particle that is outside of this radius. So it's an exclusion radius. Then the Lloyd relaxation can be analyzed as Brognois centroids, and then you move the particles to these centroids, and then you do this iteratively. So then you can have also optimal transport, where you move the particles to reach a target spectrum. And then here the loss, it will be the encoding of the repulsion. And finally, you can have also fluid simulation, where the pressure force acts as the repulsion. Then another kind of work that is the closest to our approach, or we take inspiration from, is core noise jittering. And the idea here is that you do advection particle movement, and the idea is that computing a core, and in the core you can check if the flow is divergence free. Divergence free means that there are no source or sinks. And that is what makes, in the practical sense, the blue noise characteristic. So where do we locate in this kind of work? So basically, we are the first one to do both advection and repulsion in a single system. And this allows us to, together with attraction, to create not only a good blue noise quality, but also pink and red noise. Okay, so now that we have the motivation and we know the gap in the research, let's talk about the method that basically take an arbitrary input distribution and create this color noise output. For that, we are going to use basically 3 forces plus a noise, so that the noise makes a stochastic differentiable equation. Then we have the advection, that is basically the move of particles based on vector flow. And then we have the repulsion, that basically inside a particle radius, they tend to repel each other and push apart. And then the attraction, that is the opposite, that is pulled towards the centroids. And with these 3 simple forces, we can manage to create any power spectrum. Okay, let's discuss the first point, the particle advection. The mathematical formula is very simple. It's basically you have a vector flow, and the vector flow is evaluating a phase function. And this phase function codes the spatial direction of the flow. Then basically the particles move following this flow. And then you need to consider some details, for example, the domain, so if the particles, they need to wrap and so on. Here we have a specific example, because in the paper we found the key is how you encode this phase function. And we found that the degree 5 bipolar polynomial function is quite efficient to encode the phase function and to fit the 2, because you have not so many parameters. Now let's discuss the particle repulsion. In the particle repulsion, again, the equation is simple. So you have the direction from the point, that is the, let's see if we can use the laser. So yeah, you have a point and then a centroid, and basically you take the direction, and basically you have a repulsion radius, which we found that is the key parameter. and then you can control the strength of this repulsion. Here it's important to have a data structure like a KD tree to make the neighbor computation efficient. And also we apply the particle repulsion after the particle advection. That's the reason that the point interaction is T plus 1. Okay. Now with particle attraction, the idea is to do soft clustering where the clusters are guided by the centroid and the weights are computed with a Gaussian kernel normalized. Yeah, here we can say that when you increase this strength of the clustering, you tend to have less clusters and stronger clusters, dominant clusters. Okay, so now we see that the framework is relatively simple. So let's see some results to see if we convince that it's practical. And we have two types of experiment, quantitative and qualitative. For the qualitative comparison, we compare with the previous work with low relaxation and the core noise jittering. And we found that our blue noise spectrum is more isotropic, so it's a better quality. But analyzing these points is a bit subjective and complicated. So, well, first let me show how you got from an arbitrary distribution to wait a minute. Maybe it's the laser. Yeah, so you can get from any point distribution to blue noise, and it's relatively quickly. You see that the points are moving, but they already reach a blue noise, so they are moving from blue noise to another blue noise. We can also create pink noise, and here we use the spectrum to compare with a theoretical reference. Yeah, I will talk later about this result, but it's a preliminary result that is interesting. So yeah, I was talking about that how do you measure the quality of blue noise, and well, for that we use metrics. So for example, the mean spacing, the discrepancy, they tell you that the separation of the points, where the anisotropy tells you if it's isotropic or not. We focus in the quality metric that combines the separation for the Nyquist frequency and the anisotropy value. So basically, the larger, the better. And if well, there is also the coefficient of variation that tells you how uniform are the Voronoi cells. And in these tables, we compare several versions of our method plus, with previous work, and we can see that we achieved the highest quality with two of our approach. One is encoding the phase function with the Gaussian, and the other one with the polynomial. And it's also interesting that particle dynamics sounds expensive to compute, but it takes less than a minute, so 0.22 seconds. So it's comparable in terms of time to previous work. We also try to explore the cases the method naturally extends to 3D, but also you can apply it to specific domains. For example, this Bonnie. Yes, basically here, when I talk about the war operator in the domain, that's what you change now. You need to have a war operator where we encode the domain with a SDF. So let's see now some applications from steepling and Monte Carlo rendering. So here we have 3 examples of steepling using our method. Where the idea of this steepling is that you put more points in the dark side and then less points in the bright side, but you can see that resemble in an artistic way the main content. And then we have also an example of Monte Carlo rendering with 1 sample per pixel. And here we can say that the blue noise looks less noisy. So we see some of the practical examples that we mentioned before. So I would like to be honest and talk about the limitations. So the first one reminds me the reviewers. So we have a particle system, and the first question is like, how do you know that they converge? So in practice, we think that they converge, but we don't have a theoretical analysis, and we think that it would be interesting to bring a theoretical analysis of when converge and when doesn't converge. Then we also show homogeneous distribution. It would be interesting to try spatially variant distributions. Here, for example, we can use the spatially variant repulsion radius. And finally, the pink noise and red noise, we did manual parameter tuning, and this could be, there could be some improvement, because maybe the result, we can get a better result, but we couldn't because we did manual fitting. Okay, to conclude, basically we propose a physically based noise synthesis based on particle dynamics. You have a unified system with 3 forces: advection, repulsion, and attraction. You can create blue noise, red noise, and pink noise. And we also showed superior results in terms of the blue noise quality compared to previous work. With that, I am happy to answer your questions.
All right, we'll take questions now. Right there.
I'm curious with your system how well you could use it to imitate the distribution of solitons in a PDE, like in reaction diffusion.
So that's a good question. Like basically, if I understand the question correctly, if we can apply this system to a reaction diffusion differential equation.
Yes.
We haven't tried, but I think it's I think it's an interesting idea. So the thing is, like, an intuition of why we use these forces is because, well, these forces can enforce the correlation. I will not be sure how we can enforce the correlations, you know, like the negative correlation and then the positive correlation with a reactive diffusion system. But I think it's maybe, yeah, it's a possible experiment. Thanks for the question.
It was a very interesting talk. I would like to ask you, only mentioned blue, pink, and red noise. So the other, the noise of other color, do they have practical use, and how do the forces look like?
The other colors, I think a previous work they have green, but if I remember correctly, the use was about printing or something like that. So it was very, you know, like 10 years ago. So it was not that very practical. But the thing is, a green noise is basically a cluster where each cluster has blue noise. So I don't know, like, if that helps, but I think these ones are more practical. And actually, the red noise and pink noise is more used in physics and so on because of the distribution of planets, galaxies, trees, and so on. But that's very interesting. That, for example, with the distribution of planets, this is they validate this. So it's not like they think that they validate that the galaxies they follow a pink noise distribution.
So you have a page with time. What time is it? I thought it's time take to convergence, but now you say you don't know when it converges. It converges in the sense, you know, the system doesn't stop. Like the points are moving, but if you see the loss already have the properties of like the blue noise. Okay. So basically, the stopping criteria is arbitrary. So we just see when the loss is small. But it would be nice to have a stopping criteria, probably smarter, I guess. Okay.
Thank you for your talk. So I may have missed this or misunderstood this, but if you are running a particle system simulation, is this effectively an n-body problem?
Yes.
Well, in what way do you handle acceleration, or are you just brute forcing it in that regard?
No, I think we don't have acceleration. So we have this advection, they move, so you have a flow, and they move, then the repulsion is basically checking the radius, and if it's in the radius, depending on the radius and the strength, you do the repulsion, and the attraction is, so there is no I think there is no acceleration. It's a bit like a hacky physics, if you
Well,
want.
that's fine. Just there's a lot of work on that if you ever need it.
Yeah. But yeah, I can say like I'm kind of like new to the sampling, blue noise and so on. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you for the presentation. So you have like a unified dynamic system, right? So is it possible to produce like noises in between, like not just blue or white, something in between, like?
Yes, basically you have 3 strands.
Yes.
And with the strands you can play with them, and I think in principle you can reach probably the full spectrum. You know, because if you think about like a repulsion and attraction, and then something that it moves is quite general. So maybe
do you find any noises that in between useful?
Yes, we use a noise. We have I didn't put the question, but it's an stochastic differentiable equation. So you have some noise that we add. I think it's probably, I think it's useful to have emergent behavior, I would say, the noise. But now that I'm thinking about it, I'm not sure if we try without the noise. But yeah, the noise is just white noise. So. That noise that we have add to the equation without the forces.
Thank you.
So thank you for your talk. You mentioned that your system satisfies an SDE. Have you tried to figure out if it has an invariant measure and then apply theoretical convergence results which are true for a more general class of SDEs?
Sorry, I didn't follow the question. Like I checked.
Okay. You said that your sampling method follows an SDE, a stochastic differential equation.
Yes.
Did you figure out if it has an invariant measure, and then you measure the convergence to that invariant measure?
I think the Fokker-Planck equation. So without the attraction, you can use some mathematical analysis there. But the problem is like we include the attraction part, and then I would not be sure how to do the analysis.
Because,
I mean, probably there is something to do there, but we need probably more time to explore it.
Okay. I see. Thank you.
Thank you for the question.
All right, let's thank Juan again.
Okay.